All right. We are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Meet the Masters. I am joined today by Master Matt Brown of Shoshin Karate Academy. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Just got my flu shot. Like you said, no superpowers yet, but I keep my fingers crossed. How's it going today? You good? You're live at the dojang.
I am. Yeah, it's the quietest place. So
You are you usually there in the daytime?
I am. Yeah, I like to get some of the admin stuff done, catch up on some cleaning and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I always say that when I mow my grass, that's my quiet time, and people don't understand that. I'm assuming working there is the quiet time and like the zen moment of your day, right?
Yeah, just puts on some music or a podcast, whatever, and get stuff done.
Yeah, exactly. I do the same thing. So, how are things at the dojang right now?
Going pretty good. Yeah. I'm excited. We're getting more and more families, or more family members joining that already have somebody in the school. So I love it when we have families that train together.
Yeah, that's exciting. Is there anything in particular that you've done that has changed the fact that more are coming in?
I just think I'm just talking it up to them. So like when they come in to like drop off their kid or somebody else, like, hey, you should give it a try too. Just have a casual conversation about it, and usually once they give it a try, they enjoy it.
Yeah, imagine that. Uh, it's the same thing. I came in for Buddy Day, and I got hooked. So yeah, that's awesome. That's always good to hear. And like, if they have someone in there committed, then that helps them to be a little more committed.
Yeah, it just makes a stronger tie to the studio, which is great.
Right. It's another connection with someone that you're a part of their life.
Mhm.
Um, how are things? We're still in the COVID era, but not last year's COVID era.
Right.
How are things? Obviously, you said more people are coming in. What was it like trying to weather that storm as a kind of a one-man show?
It was pretty brutal. For our state of Delaware, UD was kind of the first big. The University of Delaware was the first big like breakout area in the state, and that's like all around me here.
Yeah.
So we definitely got it probably first, in at least in the state of Delaware. Um, like even the city of Newark building is right across the street from me. They shut us down before the state did. So we kind of had to adapt, a couple days earlier than the state mandate. But it's good. We're still getting through. My folks are being good. They're wearing the mask, doing all that fun stuff. Hopefully, with all the kids getting vaccinated and whatnot, we can get away with those maybe in 2022. So we'll see.
I've always considered you one of my tech savvy friends. You're pretty good with the computers. So how was that pivot? Was that pivot? I mean, it wasn't easy for anyone, but
Yeah, it's a little teaching on Zoom is very different than teaching in person.
yeah.
In person, you can, change your tone a lot easier. You can make eye contact with them, or physically just like, hey, put your block here or put your block there and things like that. Particularly the younger ones, I'm sure you probably had similar experiences. Like sometimes they would just disappear from the screen.
Yeah.
I
Or
don't
they
know.
would just stop moving.
Some of the like, we'll say middle school age ones thought they were slick and like, oh, my camera's not working. I was like, no, you turn it off.
Yeah.
So, but it was a necessary evil, I think, for a little while. We've stopped since
Yeah.
sometime in the summer, because you're really not getting the full experience. And
Right.
I'm sure you guys had the same thing. We had a couple holdouts that just it was more convenient. They didn't have to drive in and drive back. So eventually we just, cut the cord, so to speak. And yeah, it's going much better now.
It was funny. Some of those kids came back and their uniforms were like Everything was like two sizes too small. We've got a couple of people saying hi. Newly Master Zoo, Barry Richardson says hello. Our friend Jose Rivera from Puerto Rico says hello.
My brother.
Michael Lee says hello. He actually has a question, so we'll just go ahead and start the questions now. This is a good time. Master Matt Brown judged my division in 2016. What advice can you give to center judges in training? It's an interesting question.
Okay. I know that our region, we do this mentor practice so that when you're a new center judge, we have more experienced center judges that are also in that same ring, and they'll act as a corner judge to kind of mentor you when that's going on. That way, if things start to go a little bit off the plan, they can kind of help put you back on. So, maybe in your region, if you could have somebody that is more experienced act as that corner judge, just to kind of be there. And then that way you don't have to feel quite as nervous. So if things start to go awry, you can have that person back you up. I've done that as a mentor a couple of times. I'm sure you've done it many times as well. And I think that practice is really good. And then for me at the studio level, I'll run practice rings here, whether it's for sparring or forms. And like some of my Samdans, I'll have them take turns being center judges. And then I will give them feedback, or one of the other higher dons will give them feedback and say, okay, like you guys are doing good here. If it started to go off a little bit, this is how you could correct that. The big thing with tournaments, though, particularly being a judge, is trying to do everything in a certain way that you can eliminate mistakes as much as possible. So like double checking to make sure everybody's sparred at least once after the first round, making sure after they've done their weapons division, say, hey, has everybody had a turn? Things like that to make sure that you're not missing people aren't getting left out. I think if you do that, that'll eliminate the bulk of any possible errors.
Yeah, I agree. Just adding on to that for me is being that authoritative voice, not meaning like you have to yell or scream, but be loud and don't give any like did they say something like be loud. I mean, that comes from being an instructor as well. But it doesn't always translate for someone. So yeah, just make sure that you're engaged, that all of your judges are engaged, double check the scores, double check the brackets, all those things.
Really manage the ring, really get close to your scorekeeper.
Yes, absolutely.
So in my opinion, in a ring, center judge, their job is the most important, obviously, but right below that, I think a scorekeeper.
Yeah.
So like you have to be like working in pace with them, and yeah.
Sure. Cool. Thanks for the question, Mike. I don't know if we've really talked about that side of the martial arts and tournaments, and we just had a tournament. We had the U.S. Nationals here in Region 8.
Good.
How was that experience? Is 2 years, from our world or regional championships from getting together. That was a fun experience to me.
Yeah, it was awesome to see everybody. A lot of them we hadn't seen in person in a couple of years. And then we got to see some people from outside Region 8 because it was a U.S. national tournament. It wasn't just our home region. Mm-hmm. So it was good to catch up with some people. And then, of course, we had some historical events, Grandmaster getting promoted to 9th Dan. A lot of our people getting promoted to 5th and 4th Master and things like that. So it was really good to see everybody, see the people get recognized for their hard work. So they're always fun weekends.
You had some behind the scene action going on. I know from being around you that you like taking pictures. How did you get into that? I guess you would call it a hobby of taking pictures, and then not professionally, but you volunteered to take pictures for U.S. Nationals.
Yeah. I just enjoyed it. I have no formal training, no real professional experience. I just enjoyed it. It used to just be, I would do whatever I was assigned. So let's say I was at a Don test. And in the morning session, I'm a judge or a conductor. Then the afternoon session, I might be free. I would just grab my camera and start taking pictures, or whatever the case might be. And I I was one of the ones, and like you said, I was a little tech savvy, so I could upload them to Facebook. For first, I was just doing my personal Facebook, and then eventually they gave me access to the regional one, and then I would put them there. For this one, it was more of like a mad dash, and Master Heist was like, "Hey, I need you to take pictures." I was like, "Yeah, sure." Um, when we were like a week out, we only had 4 photographers for the whole event, and we were able to get a couple more. I think we had like 6, but still, when you consider we had, I don't know,
850, yeah.
800 some competitors in 2 different rooms, and yeah, it was yeah, it all worked out though.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you. One of your students was walking around taking pictures too.
Yeah, Rebel. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you're also the treasurer for the event, right?
Yes. Yeah. And
How'd
we
that
had
go?
it went better. We had a new point of sale system, so there's a little bit of training going on.
Oh, okay.
But it's much smoother than what we have used in the past. And it was a little toned down. They weren't selling quite as many things. It was basically like the t-shirt and the book, and then like mouthpiece or whatever they needed for sparring. But hopefully, going forward, that new system will help those folks that do it, because it's a tough gig.
Gotcha. We got a couple more people saying hello. Tim Wagner says Tung Su. Christine McAllister said good morning. Lindsay Dudgeon and Natalie Walker from Great Britain say hello. And Miss Pam Russell. So got all sorts of people saying hi.
Awesome.
Which is exciting. Master Kaluzny as well. Cool. So let's talk about how did you get your start in the martial arts? What prompted you to get started training?
So probably like a lot of kids, I tried a lot of different sports when I was younger, and none of them really stuck. Probably the closest one was soccer. I liked kicking things, and then that kind of transitioned over into karate. And yeah, I was very fortunate that the one closest to my childhood home happened to be a KMI school, a Master Gowan school. And yeah, it just never stopped from there.
So how old were you when you got started?
I was 8 years old when I got started. So that was May of 1997.
I've been substitute teaching near your school, and a couple of kids have come up to me and like, "Hey, I know you. I know you're from black belt camp." And it's like, "Yeah, I've known Master Brown since he was your age."
Yeah.
Do you remember those early days of training, like training back then?
I do. Yeah. It was funny. In preparation for this, I was kind of thinking back a little bit. My first like chief instructor was Mark Carr. I don't know that you ever had him personally, but you probably heard some stories.
Sure. I met him a couple of times.
Okay. All right. He could be a little bit imposing, particularly to a child. I remember just like some of my first classes, you don't really know the Korean terminology yet. The way that he would scream "Chariot," like you didn't know what it meant, but you would just freeze because he was just so intimidating. He had a military background, like drill instructor type thing, for those of you that didn't know him. So he could be a very imposing individual. And at the time, a very junior Mr. Maybroda was a first degree back then. Yeah.
Yeah. So the history of Master Brown and I, we came from the same studio, Korean Martial Arts Institute here in Newark, Delaware. I started in 2001, so that would have made you like 12 or 13 then. And you were a black belt at that point already. And Matt, Mr. Maybroda was the chief instructor. He had lots of assistants. So who were some of the black belts that helped out in classes when you were coming up?
Let's see. So there was him, there was Jen Turner, there was Sean O'Donnell.
Sean Coley,
Sean Coley. Yeah. Yeah.
Jason Church.
Yeah. Jason, Master Church. He's a good friend of mine. Um, yeah, I really grew up in the school with a lot of those folks. A lot of them now are, masters or senior dons, and it was really cool to see like all of my classmates kind of move up. Because again, when I got started, Mark Carr was the highest rank at second degree, and Master Broda at the time was a first degree. And nowadays, all of our studios, we have such high ranks compared to back then.
Mhm.
If you saw somebody with 3 stripes, you were like, oh, um, yeah. So it's funny to see how far we've come.
Did you ever find that when you were coming up and the fact that you had been around for longer, that you were maybe Master Broda pushed you a little harder or expected a little more from you?
Um, I love him to death, and I think that he did so much for me to push me outside of my comfort zone. I'm a natural introvert. I'm just a quiet person. There were times where he would just be like, "You have to do it. Just go." Um, when I was like 16 or 17, I was first on staff. He's like, "You have a key to the school. You have a car. I'm leaving." He would just leave, and so like I would have to figure it out. Like no lesson plan, no nothing. He's like, "Go." So that happened a couple times. And when you're in that situation, you just got to figure it out. I do remember feeling like when I was first on staff, I think 17, I was second degree at the time. Rank wise, I outranked like most of the people. There's a few people like your wife that would still outrank me, but um, it was weird being this like 17-year-old kid teaching an adult class to get a room full of real adults and me still like a 17-year-old kid. So that was weird for a little while. But now that I'm older and more mature, it's still nice to be on the younger side. So like when we went through the master's clinic and as candidates together, I was the youngest candidate there, at least in our group, which was cool. So it has its benefits starting young.
Yeah, I remember that same experience for me, but I think I was 23 or 24 and seeing, Aaron, my wife, and then Mr. Kirk showing up for my classes. It's like, why are you guys here? You guys outrank me. That gave me a lot of confidence, honestly. To see those people, it was like, well, we trust you to run a class. And we want to, turns out we like karate and Tung Sudo, so we want to take class.
Yeah, I think that was probably more internal in my mind, but everybody here is super nice. They were always respectful of the fact that I was the actual instructor, and afterwards they're like, hey, maybe next time try this or try that, give you helpful hints.
There's been quite a few. I mean, you've already mentioned a number of instructors that have come through that location, but what are some of the other, who are some of the other guys that you've had the opportunity to train with and teach with throughout the years?
Again, I'm spoiled in many regards since I came up through KMI. You look in any direction, you're going to have a fantastic martial arts instructor. I think, Master Waters would be probably at the top of that list. He's so amazing when it comes to teaching and all aspects really of martial arts. Every time I watch him teach, I pick up something. And I still try to do that with everybody. So even though if they're teaching a topic I already know, I try to make sure that, okay, well, how are they teaching it or why are they teaching it that way? It might be different from the way that I teach it. And I try to understand, the concept as to why they're doing it that particular way. Are they breaking it down differently? Are the words they're choosing to explain different? Things like that. But Master Waters, he is a true master when it comes to teaching. Master Kloss is another one. He's a fantastic martial arts instructor. I've done a few of the summer camps with him, and to see him just like completely control a group of hundreds of kids all at the same time is really cool. Obviously, you have the superhumans like Master Malbrook and Master Setianto, the ones that are just physically so impressive. Plus, they have the the intelligence to still dominate and instruct at a high level. So again, I'm extremely spoiled. You have the same experience that I have of being around a group that every single person is an amazing martial arts instructor. To the point where if I ever interact with other martial arts schools in the area, I try to be polite and respectful. I'm like, oh, okay, but they're just not at our level. And that all goes back to, the training that we got from Master Godwin. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Not only are they great martial artists, but they're great people. And what's great about you talk about that circle, and then you go to that next level and you have all of the region 8 instructors, and then you go to the next level and you go to worlds or master's clinic, and then you see all the other instructors there, and you just realize that everyone is the same. Everyone's willing to help and teach and share anything that they've been given from their instructors, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have this mindset of this one person was our instructor, or maybe like 2 or 3 people was our instructor. But for me at this point, I've picked up so many different things from so many different instructors. It's hard to say that my teaching style is more in line with a single individual. I could pick up one thing from Master Waters, from Master Klaus, Master Kaluzny. I could pick up so many different things from so many different people that, my teaching style is never going to be directly in line with another person, which is, I think, a cool thing.
Sure. Absolutely. Do you remember any memories of Master Godwin from when you were a kid and his interactions?
Yeah. So when I first started, he only had 3 schools, Newark, which is now this one was the 3rd school. When he had those 3 schools, he used to travel a lot more often to the different schools to teach. At the largest, he had 8 schools, and they were also a lot more spread out. So it got really difficult for him to do that. But when I was younger, he would do that a lot, and he could be intense. I remember if our stance wasn't low, he would start pushing on us and get lower, things like that. Shanai made an appearance on a couple of occasions, and doing things back stance or fighting stance. He would try to sweep out our front foot. Yeah, it was a little different when he taught.
Yeah, he's you watch him teach now, and he's way more mellow and just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
He still expects a lot, but yeah, like you said, no shanais or anything like that.
Well, I think, when he's teaching the students in his school, but if he's teaching us, it's a different story.
That's true. So you mentioned Master Waters, and one of the things I wanted to talk about, I think a lot of regions in World Tong Soo have black belt camps or clinics. Mm-hmm. We have a kids clinic and an adult clinic, and you were one of the people that had the opportunity to go through it as a child or as a teen, and then come up through the ranks and teach and help under Master Waters, and then eventually be the director yourself. So maybe can you talk to us about some of the memories as a kid and why you continued to help out? Was there a certain reason why you decided to continue, or were you told to?
It was an option. I wasn't forced to do it. I do really enjoy black belt camps. Like you mentioned, I did start out as a kid. I think I went to my first one. I was 10 or 11. And I just really enjoyed the experience. For me, I really enjoy martial arts, and to have a whole weekend of doing nothing but martial arts, learning from a variety of different instructors, a variety of topics, that was the coolest thing ever. And I had some really good cabin counselors, Master Waters being one. This is before he took over. I think Master Gowan was still in charge at the time. This was one of my first years at the camp. And one young lad decided he didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, and Master Waters asked him many times, like, "Hey, you need to do it." And so at one point, he just picked up the end of the bunk and just dropped it, and the kid like got jarred awake, and then he got out of bed real quick. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so many stories that are funny like that. Master Britt one time, he took over doing the forms, and this was years ago. What's the guy's the rapper Little John had a song out, and instead of our key ups, it was like, what and okay, and we were doing that instead of like key ups. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many crazy stories. I really enjoyed camp, and then um, when I was 17, I actually went to the adult camp for the first time. That was the year they decided to split it, or sorry, it was the last year before they split it. So there's so many kids going to the kids camp, they didn't have enough beds. And so that year they put like the 17-year-olds with the adults. The next year they split it into now we have 2 youth camps. And as soon as I was 18 and I was able to be a counselor, I did that first year. One of the first years I was a counselor, Master Myers, she was running a scavenger hunt for the kids to do. And we're running all over Camp Saginaw, all up and down that hill many times. And I still have some hostility towards your friend, Master Kaluzny, for this. One of the last parts of this scavenger hunt was we had to go and ask a question of Grandmaster Shin. And Master Kaluzny was acting as the bodyguard, as security to Grandmaster Shin at the time. And they're in a golf cart, and Master Kaluzny's driving. Well, as Master Kaluzny sees the kids come up, he just takes off in the golf cart. So now all my, campers are running after this golf cart. And yeah, so we got a good workout that day.
Yeah, look at my shocked face that Master Kaluzny did that too. Was that the same year? Didn't they put Master Godwin like out in the swamp or something?
Yeah, that was part of it. They were supposed to like go through all of this to find Master Godwin. None of the kids did. So eventually we had to go rescue him because I think
I wasn't there for that, but I remember hearing like he was out in the woods and he sat out there for a while.
Yeah, there's a little like stream or creek, and he was like sitting on a rock in the middle, just like meditating. He didn't even like notice that we hadn't come and gotten him. Yeah, so there's been some fun times at the camps.
Yeah, I remember that. A couple more. Master Angel Salona says, "Good morning." She said, I heard you were joining us next week for training. And then another newly minted Master Lucinda Oyen says, "Good morning."
Good to see her come up for the promotion.
Yeah, that was cool to see her help out with Grandmaster Strong's belt promotion. I talked with her husband. I have to reach out to her soon to get her side of the Oyen story.
There you go.
So you mentioned Grandmaster Shin in that. What were some of the experiences you had growing up, being able to see him at black belt camp, and were you able to ever get any personal interactions with him?
Yeah, we were definitely again spoiled in Region 8, having him in our home region for as long as we did. He was at everything, all the tournaments, all the Don tests, the camps, and whatnot. And it was really nice to have chances to learn directly from him. So towards the end of the camps, we always do the form with the drum, and to be in that situation, with Grandmaster leading us was always a pleasure and something to be proud of, because it's a historic thing that we do and we continue to do today. Trying to think, I don't know that I ever really had too many like one-on-one interactions with him. But one of the stories I find funny is one of my first times at the adult camp. We were doing Qigong, and we'll chalk this up to me being young and dumb, but I didn't really believe all the Qigong stuff. And I think he could sense it. So he's like walking through the crowd, through the group, and he just kind of stops and he puts his hand on my shoulder. And no joke, like it felt like it was on fire. I don't know what he did, but he's definitely knew Key way better than I do. Um, yeah, yeah, that's something that definitely stuck in my brain.
So did that change your outlook on Qigong?
A little bit. I was
Yeah.
like, some people have some stuff. I don't know that I do, but he definitely had, some things going on. He knew what he was doing. But he was always such a kind individual, a welcoming individual. He also had a really good sense of humor. I don't know if you remember this. This is at the adult camp.
Mr.
Uh,
Bean?
no, not that one. That's good, not that one. One year they decided to, we're in that gym and they had taken like index cards. You can anonymously write down questions for the masters, right? And some of them got a little wild. I remember Master Britt one time, one of the questions is like, why do so many masters have waists over 40 inches? And Master Britt like popped up, becomes stormed down, like, this is where we store our key energy and things like that. Well, then we got a question that asked, our regional director at the time was Master Vittori. It says, how does Master Vittori stay so sexy? And all of a sudden I see Grandmaster Shin pop up. And I was like, oh, we're in trouble. We went too far. And he comes up and he grabs the microphone. He's like, how come you don't ask how I stay so sexy? I was like, oh, okay. I was nervous for a little while. I was afraid we were all going to be doing like push-ups for a long, long time. But
that's awesome. I love those little like moments of like, did he just say that? Like Master Klusny has a story where he yelled at him at black belt testing and he yelled across the room, I'll kill you, Joe. And it's just those little moments where, you hold him in such high regard and revere. And it's like, yeah, he's just a guy.
Yeah, he's a human being like anybody else.
He's a human being. I mean, he's a great leader and all that, but yeah, he likes to have fun just as much as all the rest of us.
Yeah.
Master Todd Owens checking in. Definitely call. Yes, I will chat with Mrs. Master Oyen soon. It's been cool. I've been trying to get more. October was busy with U.S. Nationals, as I'm sure you were well aware. So I'm getting back into the swing of it. Although I'm taking a break next week because I'll be on vacation. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, enjoy.
Or actually, no, that's not true. I do have an interview next week with Master Weinberg, so I'm pretty excited about that one. And then the next week, I'm taking a break.
Okay.
So yeah, Master Weinberg should be a fun conversation.
I'm sure.
Never one who's short of words.
No, not at all.
So you come up through the ranks, and I know you eventually went to college. You talked about like teaching, and at 17, you were still pretty active through college, teaching and training with us. And then I know after college you took a break and you got a I don't want to say a real job, but you got a job. You got a job outside of the martial arts.
Yeah,
so maybe talk about your study in college and where that led you in taking a job after that.
Yeah. So in college, I still worked here. I was here like 6 days a week, teaching at night, go to class in the morning, usually in the afternoons, do the homework, study, that type of stuff. And then I would be here at night. So I'm by no means a party animal or anything like that, but it worked for me. I enjoyed it. For me, I studied exercise science, and that kind of came out of a curiosity from, doing this stuff. Like, how does the body work? Why does it work the way that it does? Taking, biomechanics class or athletic training classes and things like that to learn how to, if I injure myself, how can I take myself up, and keep going, things like that. After I graduated, I took a job at a local YMCA. I was one of their directors, youth wellness director. I did that for a little while, and I still was here maybe 2 or 3 nights a week. Nowhere near what we used to be, but it was nice to come in and actually take a class from time to time versus teaching all the time. And when I was at the Y, I actually, with Master Gowan's help, I established a program there for them to teach martial arts. There was an individual already teaching martial arts, and they were claiming to teach Tong Soo, which I happen to know a little bit about. And when I watched it, I was like, I don't know what this is. So I was, luckily able to convince my higher ups at the Y and work with Master Gowan to install a program. Mr. Kevin O'Reilly was the lead on that, old Don. And then one of my students, Colton Moore, was there to back him up. And it was a great program. The way the Y is kind of situated in our area, it's right in between Hokessen, which is Master Claus, Master Gowan School, and then the Newark School. So all of us got students from that. They would get up to like 7th GUP at the Y, and then they would transfer out to one of the 3 schools that were in the area. The Y didn't want them like sparring or doing weapons or anything like that. So that's why we kind of pushed them out. And plus, it gave us students from that program. I know my school specifically, we produced like 5 black belts that came from that Y program. And I think, Master Claus and Master Gowan had similar results as well. So for when it was working, it was a good program.
Awesome. So what kind of pushed you towards coming back as a full-time instructor after working at the Y?
Yeah. So I did feel like I was getting pulled away from this life, and I didn't like that. So, I asked Master Gowan, like, hey, can I come back? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he actually, when some of the great switcheroos started happening, you were going down to Dover, I was going up to Kennett, and Jeff was going to Newark, and, all these people were moving around. So yeah, it was a good experience. For me personally, I predominantly been in Newark. I had taught at some of the other schools like here and there, but mostly it was, here at this school. But for me to then go up to Kennett and work with those folks, it was a good growing experience for me.
Do you think that, or maybe talk about any things, being a director at the Y, did you learn anything as far as things you can take into either running a business or being an instructor or being a teacher? Did you take anything from that time there? Or I guess vice versa was probably the other way around, honestly.
not like I didn't really learn anything from the teaching side. I probably helped more on the teaching side than anything. I did learn some like budgeting and things. And, when I was there, I had about 20 employees that were under me. So I did learn some like, management strategies and things like that, which was good. Working at, KMI in the past, it was always more of like a camaraderie. We didn't really, there was usually like a chief instructor, but like when it was Master Church and myself, we both would contribute. Jason never like talked down to me or anything like that. It was, again, a camaraderie thing. So being in that management position was new to me. And it was, again, it was a good experience. That might have helped prepare me for, black belt camp, where I have to be the manager of, the different instructors and things like that. On the teaching side, it was a little weird. Like there was a youth fitness center that I was in charge of. There was the karate program that we put in, and then there was the dance program at the Y, which I have no business being in charge of. But, so, I would sit in on their classes to do evaluations of the instructors, and they were good. It was just some of the same things that like we teach our people now on how to become better instructors. I'm trying to think, like the different focus anchors we would talk about, or, trying to make sure, each kid in the class at some point, you're calling them by name, or you give them a high five, you're making eye contact with them, making them feel seen, things like that. just like basic class management things that they could improve upon. And yeah, it was I think it was good. I learned and I gave back.
What was it, you know, starting teaching? Why why do you continue to teach now? Like what has inspired you through your training and through your teaching for now? Where are we going? We almost 25 years, 25 plus.
So May of 22 will be 25 years for me. Um, for me, I just go back and think about the profound impact that my instructors had on me, and I definitely would not be the person I am today without them and their influence. So if I could do that for even just one person, I think that that's a huge deal. Um, and then actually witnessing the changes in the students. So maybe they come in, they're really shy and timid, and then you work with them for a little while. Now they start to gain a little bit more confidence, to feel a little bit more, you know, better about speaking up and things like that, a little bit more assertive, or vice versa. If they come in, they're like bouncing off the walls, if you can get them to focus for a couple minutes at a time. If you can actually witness that in your students, I think that's really good. And of course, my favorite thing, I'm sure this is true for a lot of us, is, tying on the black belts. When they get to that point, they've gone through that journey and we get to, tie the black belts on. That's always fun and exciting.
Yes, I agree. Speaking of black belts, Kelsey Hallett says hello. She's training currently. We need to get her back in again.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in a while. Come to class.
Yes, have to come to class, Kelsey. You can come to see me in Evolution too.
And I heard you have some of Newark alumni, will say, like Lee Mannering and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah, he got his daughter started training. She's actually blue black belt now. She's about to come up through the ranks for black belt.
Nice.
And when he started coming, and I was like, "You still got your uniform?" And it's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Bring it." So he's been teaching. He's been helping teach. He claims that once she gets her black belt, that he'll start coming with her to the teen adult class. So
okay, all right.
I'll hold him to it.
Yeah, he definitely should. He's a good guy. Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about that I thought was fun is kind of it's kind of adjacent to the martial arts, but throwing knives. I know you've always been a fan, and you used to have a giant throwing board in the school.
Yeah. Don't tell Master Gowan. Now, I was gifted that by Master Church for my birthday some years ago, and it just deteriorates after a while, and I don't have it anymore. But recently, I just go to Home Depot, get some 2x4s, screw them together, and just create a little target. Luckily for me, in this particular location, there's a cinder block wall and then there's a brick wall over there. So I'll rip up the mats. I don't want to tear them up too much. And I'll just put the target up against the wall because I can't hurt it. And yeah, every once in a while I'll have some fun. I think the last time we did it as part of our boxing boards and brews event. So that was fun for some of the adults that maybe don't get to do that stuff on a regular basis. It's just fun.
Yeah, exactly. We're just grown children at this point.
Definitely. Yeah. More so when we were at the other location. So about 5 years ago, we're in the same shopping center we have been for the whole time. But we were at the other end of the shopping center. They were doing some construction. We had to move down here. When we were over there, that's when I had that big that piece, and Jason Church and I used to have a lot of fun with that. Yeah.
You also did it at one point. I know you, or maybe this was Master Setianto's brainchild, the Fruit Ninja. Someone did a Fruit Ninja night there. That might have been Master Setianto.
I know Jason and I did it years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I still do them from time to time. I didn't really do a whole lot of special events during COVID. Maybe in January we'll do it. It's fun. Although the video game at this point is no longer popular. So when you start to mention it, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I mean, if you say, "Hey, we're gonna throw fruit at you, and you're gonna get to cut it with a sword," I mean,
yeah. So for
you say,
those of
"I'm
you,
in."
so those of you that don't know, we're using the competition, the dull. They look sharp, but they're dull. Please don't give sharp swords to kids. Um, and so yeah, so we go to like Home Depot, buy like the plastic sheeting that you would use for like a paint drop or whatever, and we'll tape that out on the floor and like halfway up the wall, and then we just buy a bunch of fruit and throw it at children. Um, Try to buy softer fruits because some of the stuff, if they miss it, it can hurt. Um, yeah,
Put their sparring gear on to have a little protection.
yeah. Some of them show up with like safety glasses. They like, I
Nice.
don't want the juice going in my eyes. Like, just suck it up. Let's go.
So we've talked about your location.
Mhm.
You can tell me how many years ago it's been you had the opportunity to take over the studio and rename it as Shoshin Karate Academy. So how long has that been, and how's that journey
Uh,
been for you?
so it's only been about 2 years.
Okay.
So it was the fall of 2019.
Oh, okay.
So I was just getting comfortable. And bam, COVID.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting to say the least. Um, but I feel like if I could survive this COVID stuff, I can deal with anything that comes my way after that. Um,
I think it's a
so
pretty accurate statement.
yeah. But it's good. Again, luckily I have so many role models nearby. I could text them or call them for advice, and yeah, it's good to have resources like that. And like tomorrow, a bunch of us are getting together to do some, marketing planning and whatnot. So, Master Gowan, Master Setyanto, Master Priest, Master Kluzny, I think. I'm sure there's some other ones that I'm forgetting right now, but
Master Westron is going to
oh
supposed to
yeah,
be.
that's right. Yeah. So it's good that we have so many people that are willing to just help. They're not expecting anything in return. They want to help. Master Gowan used to always talk about, rising tide lifts all boats. And that's a mindset that's, I think, all throughout our association. They're just willing to help out.
I agree. And it's one of those things where we may not all be Korean martial arts institute studios anymore, but if you peel back the paint, we're all at least I consider them all sister schools and still part of my inner circle of friends and studios.
Yeah. I call them sister schools all the time. Like, hey, our sister school is going to have an in-house tournament. Go to here, go there. Yeah, it's great. And if somebody calls up and they live in Middletown, I'll send them to you guys. Or if they live in Oxford, I'll send them to Master Fisher or whatever.
Right.
Because I know no matter where they go, they're going to have a great experience.
Sure. Um, we can't do this stuff without support. Maybe talk about the support. I remember coming up to the ranks in Newark. There was basically kind of two karate moms. It was Mrs. Church and Mrs. Brown. We would talk about the support you got from your mom and your family.
Yeah, she's always been a huge supporter, even though for the longest time she's like, you should get a real job. And that's part of the reason when I graduated, I did go to the Y, and she's like, all right, you've done this for a while, go try this. And once she realized that I was not happy there, she's like, all right, go do the thing. But she's always been a huge supporter. She's a very tough lady. Single mother raising my sister and myself, and yeah, she's probably scarier than most of the people that are on these mats. But yeah,
She's half the size of them too.
half the size. Yeah. Um, she's notorious for like, if I'm driving, she'll be in the passenger seat. I sometimes say smart aleck things, and she'll like, start hitting me. I'm like, Mom, I'm driving. Like, we're gonna take both of us out. Yeah. So
Awesome. And I know your sister, how's your sister doing?
she's doing pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Maybe someday we'll get her back here training.
Yeah. I know there was a very brief period many years ago where she got back on and then had some health issues and
Yeah, ankle injury and whatnot. Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway,
Um, one of the things that I personally appreciate from Master Brown, my niece and nephews train with you and have for many years, and talk about sister schools and things like that. I appreciate the fact that you keep an eye on them and keep them going. I know Taylor just recently tested for second degree, and I know you got a graduation coming up. So personally, thank you for doing that for my family. I appreciate it.
I mean, yeah, we've talked about it before, but we're all families. Like it doesn't matter. Like if I had family that lived in Middletown, I would send them to you guys rather than make them drive up this way. Because again, I know that you guys are gonna, do an awesome job of teaching them. It doesn't make any sense for them to drive further just to come to, my personal school. But
Right.
yeah, we really enjoy having them here, and it was good to see Taylor test and come back from her knee injury and buckle down and get that. I don't know how competitive her and Riley are, but now that they're both second degrees again, and so
It's definitely in the background there, for sure. One of the things we haven't talked about was growing up and competing. I know for years you and I were in the same division, competing. I think probably at third degree, because you probably got when did you get your third degree black belt? How old were you?
18.
18. Yeah. So, and what year was that? What year did you get your
Fall cycle of 2006.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So would have got mine in 2009. And so you were already in that division. Maybe talk about competing through the years and what drove you to compete and continue to compete until you eventually went to Masters Clinic.
Yeah. Again, this goes back to Master Broda. He would push me to do things that I wasn't comfortable with, and competing was one of those for a long time. But eventually I did that. I also went into the creativity realm, which is a whole other ballgame. But it was just really good to push myself to, master the certain forms for that rank, and then work on sparring and things like that. And it was just fun. When we would go to compete, if it was at a regional event, I very closely knew more than half the division because most of them were KMI folks. And then even if we went to a worlds or things like that, again, knowing the region 8 folks and, in addition to the KMI folks, I would know most of the folks. And then even if I didn't know them, introducing myself, getting to know them. So there was a bunch of folks that I used to compete with. All of us are masters now. All of us that were in local region 8. I can think of what was it, Sam Hazelden from the UK, Jordan Chappell, like all those guys over there. It was just nice to see all of us, compete for a while and then go through the testing process for masters and complete it.
I remember, I don't remember what year it was, but you were sparring and I forget the guy. It was a tall kid and he got up on you like 2-0. And it was like the most epic comeback ever, where he was using his length on you. And then so you figured out how to get in and you ended up beating him 3-2. And do you remember what I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah.
That was like I've never seen a group or like an audience cheer on and like get so excited for a match. It was awesome.
Yeah. That wasn't common. Usually they could use their legs against me.
Yeah, well, you're not the
leprechaun is a tough gig.
If you don't know Master Brown, he's not the tallest guy, but
travel sized.
You would travel size, fun size. You give fun size is better.
All right.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, it I'm sure it pushed you out of your comfort zone, and it's the same thing for me as well. Like, just knowing, like, especially at Worlds, like regionals, you got more comfortable with the people that you saw, even if they were better than you. But Worlds, you go and it's a whole new ball game. You have no idea who most of them are, and that's part of the excitement and challenge.
That's part of the fun and getting to meet new people. And then on the instructor side, I felt hypocritical if I was trying to get my students to compete, but I wasn't doing it myself. And then also to be a good judge, I think if you're going to be a good judge, you should have competed for a while.
Sure.
Because then you understand that side of it too. Not to say that you couldn't be a good judge, but I think there is the benefits outweigh the negatives. So, if you still can compete, do it often. And then that way, when it's your time to hang it up and, just judge and that type of stuff, you'll have that knowledge and experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It helps you be sympathetic to the competitors, whether it's the forms, whether it's the sparring, especially the sparring. I feel like you owe it to them to keep the match going. If it's only a 2-minute match, if you waste 35 to 40 seconds of it calling points slowly or being, not as fast as you could be, you're doing them a disservice, especially if they only get one match. So I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. And again, that just comes with practice. I have a couple of my Somdoms, one of them in particular. He's a professor in his profession. And so he likes to talk. And so he likes to, all right, judges ready. Judges. I was like, nope, go.
Gotta go. I always tell my judges is like, I'm going to let you know ahead of time. I try to keep things moving. If I go too fast, just let me know.
Well, like you said, if you're doing that, you're actually taking it out of the competitor's hands. And the match should be decided by them. It shouldn't be decided by us as the judges. It should be, figured out by them. So if we're slowing down the pace so much, no good.
Right. I agree. Well, we are almost at the hour mark. Again, I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank everyone for watching. I appreciate all the support. It's crazy to think, I believe you are interview 74 that I've done, which is pretty wild. So is there anything that we haven't touched base on that you wanted to talk about, or any closing words for our audience?
I don't know. I mean, again, I'm kind of the quiet guy. So I think with that, I usually just try to listen as much as I can. And when I do that, I tend to learn a lot. There's a lot of people that are very intelligent. They know a lot about the martial arts, particularly in our organization. You and I have had some experience to like Happy organizations and other stuff. None of them are quite run as well as WTSDA. So I think if we just, listen and then take that knowledge and try to make it even better for the next generation, I think it'll be good. I
think those are wise words, right? It's the old, you have 2 ears and one mouth. So I think that's great. And I think we all do that a little more. Well, thank you, Master Brown, for your time today. I appreciate you joining me. I had a great time chatting. It's been we text back and forth every once in a while, but sometimes it's hard to sit down and talk for an hour or so.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Yeah, maybe we'll see each other at the Master Godwin Legacy event. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, will you be there for instructors class on Sunday?
Yes, I will be there.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you then. Thank you, everyone, for watching Meet the Masters. And like I said, join me next week as I talk to Master Weinberg. I'll send out information on that soon. All right. Tong Su.